At my brother-in-law's wedding, my 5-year-old daughter suddenly said, "Why is grandma crying in the kitchen and saying you're not invited?" The entire table went silent. My mother-in-law gasped, then shouted, "She wasn't supposed to hear that." My husband looked away. Hours later, I learned the truth. They planned to cut me out completely, for inheritance reasons. There are moments in life that shift the ground beneath you, moments that break the world you thought was stable and reveal the cracks that had been forming all along. For me, that moment came at my brother-in-law's wedding, disguised as a simple, innocent question from my 5-year-old daughter. "Why is grandma crying in the kitchen and saying you're not invited?" It came out of nowhere. One second, we were sitting at a beautifully set table, surrounded by Owen's family, enjoying the perfectly plated salmon and asparagus. The next, the entire table went silent. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, gasped. Her hand shot up to cover her mouth, but it was too late. The damage was done. Then she panicked. She wasn't supposed to hear that. I felt my stomach drop. The room around me blurred slightly as my pulse pounded in my ears. I turned to Owen, needing him to jump in and clear up whatever misunderstanding this was. Instead, he looked down at his plate. The weight of that simple action nearly knocked the air from my lungs. He wasn't surprised. He knew. A slow, burning realization crept up my spine. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something deliberate. I glanced around the table. Owen's father coughed awkwardly, adjusting his tie. His sister, Julia, quickly looked away. Callum, the groom, stared at his plate like he was praying for it to open up and swallow him. The only one who met my gaze was Natalie, the bride. Her expression was tight, like she knew something she wasn't supposed to say. I forced myself to swallow down the nausea rising in my throat and turned back to my daughter. Her little face was scrunched in confusion, still waiting for an answer. I smiled, because what else could I do? And smoothed her hair. "It's okay, sweetheart. Eat your dinner." She shrugged and turned her attention back to her chicken nuggets, blissfully unaware of the emotional grenade she had just set off. But I wasn't okay. Not even a little. I took a slow, measured breath, then turned to Eleanor. My voice was steady, but my hands under the table were clenched into fists. "Care to explain?" She looked at Owen, like she expected him to step in. When he didn't, she sighed and straightened her back. I don't think this is the right time." "Really?" "Because I think it is." Owen finally spoke. "Can we not do this here?" His voice was low, strained. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Oh, you don't want to do this here? Where would you prefer, Owen? Because I'd really love to know why your mother is in the kitchen sobbing about me not being invited to a wedding that I am very much sitting in the middle of." More silence. Then, Julia muttered under her breath, "Jesus Christ, I told you this would happen." I whipped my head toward her. "Told who?" "Told who, Julia?" Before she could answer, Eleanor pushed her chair back and stood abruptly. "Excuse me." She turned and walked briskly toward the kitchen. I should have let it go. I should have sat back, eaten my food, and pretended nothing happened. But I had spent years being the outsider in this family, years of smiling through passive-aggressive comments, years of being polite while Eleanor made it clear in 1,000 tiny ways that she never quite saw me as one of them. And now? Now, I had proof. So, I stood up and followed her. The kitchen was bright, pristine, and smelled like wedding cake. Eleanor stood near the counter, gripping the edge like she needed it to hold herself upright. She didn't look at me. I crossed my arms. "Start talking." She exhaled sharply, then turned. "You shouldn't have come." I blinked. "Excuse me?" Her lips pressed together, like she was debating how much to say. Finally, she huffed. "We didn't think you would show up." My laugh was cold. "Oh, I'm sorry. Should I have taken the hint when my invitation mysteriously got lost in the mail?" She sighed. We thought it would be easier this way." My jaw clenched. "Easier for who?" Silence. Then, she finally said it. The truth. The thing that shattered whatever fragile illusion of family I had been clinging to. "You're not part of this family, dear." "Not really. And soon, neither will Owen." It hit me like a freight train. I felt the words more than I heard them. They slammed into me, knocking the air from my lungs. I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" She tilted her head, feigning pity. "Oh, sweetheart. You must have seen this coming. You and Owen were never a good match." I swallowed hard. "So, what? You're pushing him to divorce me?" She didn't even flinch. "It's for the best. You'll be taken care of course. We aren't heartless. But this family's assets need to stay within the family. And that means..." She waved a delicate hand. "You need to go." For a second, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Then, something inside me snapped. I took a step forward, lowering my voice. Listen to me, Eleanor. You think you can just erase me? That I'll go quietly? You have no idea who you're dealing with. She smiled. Smiled. Oh dear. We already have a plan. You're simply the last to know. My blood ran cold. I turned on my heel and walked out, straight back to the ballroom. Owen saw my face and paled. I picked up my clutch, grabbed Lila's hand, and leaned in close to my husband's ear. My voice was ice. You better lawyer up. Then, I walked out of that wedding and out of the life they thought they could push me out of. They had no idea. I wasn't leaving empty-handed. And when I was done, they'd be the ones cut out. The car ride home was silent, except for the occasional sniffle from Lila in the back seat. She had no idea what was happening, of course. She was just tired from the long night, from the dancing and the excitement, her flower crown slipping to the side as she rested her head against the window. I, on the other hand, was anything but tired. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white, my heart still hammering from what had just happened. I could feel Owen's eyes on me, his hands nervously rubbing together in his lap. He hadn't said a word since I walked out of the wedding, since I took Lila by the hand and told him to figure out his own ride home. But here he was, sitting in the passenger seat like a coward, too afraid to break the silence. When we pulled into the driveway, I turned off the car and exhaled sharply. Lila, baby, go inside and get ready for bed, okay? She yawned and nodded, rubbing her sleepy eyes as she climbed out of the car. Owen reached to unbuckle his seatbelt, but I shot him a look that froze him in place. Not you. He swallowed hard. I got out of the car and slammed the door behind me, standing there for a moment, breathing in the cool night air. My hands were shaking, and I clenched them into fists to steady myself. Then, slowly, I turned and faced my husband. How long? He blinked. What? Don't play dumb, Owen. How long have you known about this? How long has your mother been plotting to erase me from this family? And don't you dare lie to me, because I swear to God, I will know. He looked down at his hands again. Owen, a long silence stretched between us. Then, finally, he sighed. A few months. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. A few months. And you said nothing? His jaw clenched. What was I supposed to say? Oh, I don't know, maybe, hey, babe, by the way, my mother is trying to get rid of you for inheritance reasons? I threw my hands up. Maybe that? He groaned and ran a hand through his hair. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought she would change her mind. I took a slow, deliberate step closer to him. Change her mind? Yes. He looked up at me, exasperated. You know how she is. She gets these ideas in her head, she fixates, but eventually, she lets them go. I thought if I just ignored it, if I just waited her out. She told me you were going to divorce me. The words hung heavy in the air between us. Owen's face paled. She said that? Yes. I stepped even closer, my voice cold. She said it was already planned. That I was just the last to know. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. That was all the answer I needed. I turned away, my chest rising and falling rapidly, trying to keep my emotions in check. But it was too much. The betrayal, the humiliation, the sheer audacity of it all. So, what was the plan, huh? I spun back around. Were you going to wait until after your dad died? Let me take care of you, raise our daughter, keep playing the dutiful wife until the check cleared. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Owen? Tell me. Because from where I'm standing, it sure as HLL looks like you were in on this. He took a step forward, reaching for my arm, but I yanked away from him like his touch burned. His face crumpled. I didn't want this. Then why didn't you stop it? My voice cracked. His shoulders sagged. Because I didn't know how. I let out a bitter laugh. That's the difference between you and me, Owen. When I see someone trying to destroy my family, I fight for it. He didn't respond. For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other in the dim glow of the porch light, the weight of everything pressing down on us. Finally, I took a deep breath and straightened my spine. I need you to pack a bag and leave. His head snapped up. What? You heard me. Go stay with your mother since she seems to have all the answers. But you're not sleeping in this house tonight. Wait, I held up a hand. I need time, Owen. I need to think. And right now, I can't do that with you here. His face twisted in pain, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I was choosing me. He hesitated, like he wanted to argue, but one look at my face told him it was pointless. So, without another word, he walked past me and into the house. A few minutes later, I heard the sound of a suitcase zipping. The front door opened, then closed. And just like that, my husband was gone. I stood there on the porch for a long time, staring out at the dark street, my heart pounding. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The house was too quiet after Owen left. Lila had already fallen asleep, curled up with her stuffed bunny, her tiny face peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing around her. I stood in the hallway outside her room for a long time, watching her breathe, my mind racing. I should have felt relieved. I had kicked Owen out, put some distance between us, taken control of the situation. But instead, there was a dull ache in my chest, like something heavy had settled there and refused to move. Because no matter how angry I was, no matter how deeply he had betrayed me, he was still my husband. We had built a life together. We had a daughter. And the thought that it had all been a lie, that I had been the last to know, made me feel like I was suffocating. I needed answers. I needed to know just how deep this went. I walked downstairs, grabbed a bottle of wine from the kitchen, and poured myself a glass. Then, I pulled my laptop from the counter and sat at the dining table. If Eleanor wanted me gone, if she had been planning this for months, then there had to be evidence. And if Owen was too much of a coward to tell me the full truth, then I would find it myself. I started with the bank accounts. I knew how much money we had, at least I thought I did. Owen and I had always kept a joint account for household expenses, but we also had separate ones. Mine had my savings, money I had earned from my own job, untouched except for emergencies. His was supposed to be the same. But as I logged into our accounts, my stomach clenched. His balance was lower than I remembered. Much lower. I clicked through the transactions, my hands tightening around the mouse. Large withdrawals. Transfers to an account I didn't recognize. Thousands of dollars, disappearing little by little over the last few months. What the HLL? I pulled up our investment accounts next, my breath catching in my throat. The stocks we had invested in together, the ones meant to be part of our future, had been liquidated. The money? Gone. I set my wine glass down with a shaking hand. I knew what this meant. Eleanor hadn't just been pushing for a divorce. She had been preparing for it. And Owen, he had been helping her. The rage that surged through me was unlike anything I had ever felt before. I was still staring at the screen when my phone buzzed. A text. Owen, can we talk tomorrow? Please? I ignored it. A second later, another message. Owen, I didn't mean for it to go this far. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Too far? Oh, we were so far past that. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. My mind was racing, my pulse pounding. I needed to be smart about this. I needed to move carefully. Because if Eleanor thought she could erase me, she had another thing coming. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I dropped Lila off at school as usual, plastering a smile on my face, pretending everything was fine. Then, instead of going home, I drove straight to the bank. I withdrew half of what was left in our joint account. Legally, it was mine too, and if Owen was funneling money elsewhere, I wasn't about to sit back and watch him drain everything. Then, I made another stop. A lawyer's office. I didn't know if I was ready to file for divorce, not yet. But I needed to know my options. I needed to know what I was up against. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Andrea, listened carefully as I laid out everything. The missing money. Eleanor's interference. Owen's silence. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, tapping a pen against her desk. You need to start gathering everything you can, she said. Emails, texts, any proof that Eleanor was behind this. If you decide to go forward with this, we want to make sure you walk away with what you're entitled to. I nodded. And if they try to screw me over? A small, knowing smile. Then we make sure they regret it. By the time I left her office, I felt calmer, focused. I had spent too long being passive in this family, trying to fit in where I clearly wasn't wanted. That was over. But first, I needed to confront Owen. So, later that night, when he showed up at the house, looking exhausted and hesitant, I was ready. He stepped inside, rubbing the back of his neck. Save it, I cut him off. I know about the money, Owen. I know what you've been doing. His face drained of color. What? I crossed my arms. Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what I'm talking about. Where is it? Where did it go? His eyes darted away. And that was all the confirmation I needed. So, it's true, I said, my voice cold. You and your mother have been planning this behind my back for months. I didn't have a choice. He burst out suddenly, running a hand through his hair. She made me do it. She said if I didn't, she'd cut me out too. I stared at him. And you just went along with it? You let her gut our accounts? You let her treat me like disposable trash. He flinched. He groaned and shook his head. I thought I could fix it before it got this bad. But she started moving faster, she started pushing harder, and I panicked. I scoffed. Oh, you panicked? That's rich, Owen. Because I didn't even get a chance to panic. I didn't get the luxury of knowing what was happening before it was too late. He squeezed his eyes shut. I'm sorry. The words meant nothing. I took a slow step forward. Tell me everything. Right now. Or I swear to God, I will make sure you regret it. He exhaled shakily. My mother has been planning this since my dad got sick. She knew he'd be passing everything down soon, and she didn't want you to have any claim to it. She said if I didn't start separating things, pulling money out, setting up my own finances, she would cut me off completely. I didn't know what else to do. I stared at him, disgust curling in my stomach. So, you chose her. Over me. Over Lila. He swallowed. I never wanted to hurt you. A bitter laugh. Then why did you? He had no answer for that. I shook my head, backing away from him. You need to leave. His eyes widened. What? No, I mean it, Owen. This marriage is over. And trust me, I will make sure I get what I deserve. You and your mother are going to regret this. He took a step toward me, desperation in his eyes. Please, just let me fix this. I smiled coldly. Oh, I will fix this. And this time, I was going to make damn sure I was the one calling the shots. Owen stood there, staring at me like he didn't recognize the person in front of him. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he still thought I was the woman who would cry and beg, who would crumble under the weight of betrayal, who would plead with him to stay. But I wasn't that woman anymore. Please, he said, his voice raw. Let's talk about this. I crossed my arms, my expression unreadable. Talk? Oh, now you want to talk? Where was this energy when your mother was planning to erase me from my own life? I didn't know how to stop her, he burst out. She controls everything, okay? She always has. I let out a slow, mirthless laugh. You're a grown man, Owen. You don't get to hide behind your mommy anymore. His face twisted with something, shame, regret, anger. I didn't care. I didn't want this, he whispered. Then why didn't you fight for me? I asked softly. Why didn't you stand up to her? He had no answer. He never did. I shook my head, stepping back. You need to go. He hesitated. Where am I supposed to? I don't care, I said flatly. Go to your mother. Tell her congratulations. She finally got what she wanted. For a second, I thought he was going to argue. But then, something in his shoulders sagged, and without another word, he turned and walked out. I didn't watch him leave. I couldn't. Instead, I stood in the middle of our home, my home now, listening to the silence he left behind. And for the first time in years, I let myself feel everything. The rage, the betrayal, the sheer audacity of what they had tried to do to me. But beneath all of that, something new simmered in my chest. Something sharp. Something dangerous. They thought they could erase me? They thought they could cut me out, steal from me, manipulate me like I was some weak little pawn in their twisted family game? They had no idea who they were dealing with. I wiped my face, squared my shoulders, and picked up my phone. First call? My lawyer. Second call? Someone who knew exactly how to dig into financial records. And third? Oh, I'd save that for later. Because when I was done, Eleanor would wish she had never underestimated me. And Owen? He'd realize too damn late that betraying me was the worst mistake of his life. I wasn't going to scream, throw things, or destroy his car. That wasn't my style. No. If Owen and his mother wanted to play dirty, I would show them how the game was really played. I spent the next few weeks preparing. Quietly. Carefully. I met with Andrea, my lawyer, again. This time, I came with a folder of documents, printouts of bank transactions, emails, even text messages I had managed to recover from Owen's iCloud backup. Every little breadcrumb he had left behind, I collected. Andrea flipped through the pages, her sharp eyes scanning each one with interest. This is good, she murmured, tapping a finger against a particularly damning email from Eleanor to Owen. She explicitly states that the goal was to remove you from any financial benefit. That's clear evidence of intent. I crossed my arms. What does that mean for me? Andrea looked up, a slow smile spreading across her face. It means we can make them pay. A week later, Owen was served while sitting in his mother's kitchen. I knew because he called me immediately after, his voice tight with panic. You're divorcing me? He asked, as if the thought had never crossed his mind. Of course I am, I said, casually flipping through a magazine. What did you think was going to happen? But we can work this out, he stammered. We can, Owen. I cut him off. I don't negotiate with people who steal from me. Silence. Then, in a quieter voice, what are you asking for? Half. He inhaled sharply. That's ridiculous. I don't even, actually, I interrupted. It's the law. And considering I have proof that you and Mommy Dearest were actively hiding money from me, I could probably take even more. He didn't argue after that. I knew Eleanor was expecting me to pack my bags and leave quietly. She had probably already picked out new curtains for the place, imagining how she and Owen would remodel it after I was gone. But I wasn't going anywhere. Andrea made sure of that. Since Owen had drained our investment accounts without my consent, and since a large portion of our assets had been purchased during our marriage, the house was legally mine to stay in, at least until the divorce was finalized. So, when Eleanor showed up unannounced one afternoon, smug as ever, I was ready. She didn't even wait for me to invite her in. She just stepped inside, looking around like she already owned the place. "I think it would be best if you moved out sooner rather than later," she said, her tone syrupy sweet. "It's time to put all of this behind us, dear." I tilted my head. "That's a great idea. You should tell Owen to find a new place." Her smile faltered. "Excuse me?" I handed her a copy of my legal residency rights, highlighting the part that stated I had full use of the property until the divorce was finalized. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, my voice calm. "But you're welcome to leave." She turned an alarming shade of red. "You conniving little," I held up a hand. "Careful. You wouldn't want to say something that might be considered harmant." Eleanor stormed out without another word. I smiled and locked the door behind her. Eleanor had one major weakness: her reputation. She had spent years building a polished, perfect image. Wealthy, well-respected, generous. Too bad for her, I had receipts. I made sure the right people saw the right documents. Business associates, family friends, even a few reporters who loved a juicy financial scandal. I never spoke directly, I didn't need to. Within weeks, whispers started circulating. People began pulling out of deals. Donations slowed. Clients started looking elsewhere. And suddenly, Eleanor's carefully crafted empire wasn't so untouchable. I didn't want Owen back. That much was clear. But I did want one last thing from him. We met at a neutral location, his lawyer's office. He looked exhausted, his suit slightly wrinkled, like he hadn't been sleeping well. "Good." Andrea slid the final settlement agreement across the table. Owen barely looked at it. "You win," he muttered. "You always win." I raised an eyebrow. "No, Owen. I just don't lose." I walked out of that office with exactly what I deserved: my share of our assets, full custody of Lila, and the satisfaction of knowing Eleanor had failed. For the first time in years, I felt free. And when I stepped outside, the sun on my face, I smiled. Because I knew, without a doubt, that I had won.